we're going to listen to a really, really rare record. It's from the 1968 campaign by George Wallace for President of the United States. He was well known. He was almost like the Trump of the 60s, except worse. He was a segregationist. He didn't want people to have to mix with each other. And the civil rights movement, a lot of it erupted out of what life was like in Alabama, where he was governor 3 times. So he really set the tone for living. No, it wasn't a tail-wagging situation. No. Stood in the doorway of the schoolhouse, University of Alabama, to keep black students who had enrolled from coming in. And the federal government had to get involved. And his actions and the culture in Alabama led to a lot of the new laws of the Great Society in the 60s. So we're going to listen to this record. It's not on Discogs. It's not listed at all. It's a 33 1/3, 2-sided, 7-inch record. It was in pretty good quality. I found it at a house sale. You know, you hate the house sales. You have to wait in the car. And I never get you good things there. It's always daddy, daddy, daddy. So, sorry about that. We'll work on your rights. We will.
To show you the strength of this movement, which concerns the leaders of both national parties, I went to California last year because January 2nd was the deadline to get a new party on the ballot. It took 66,000 people to re-register in the American Independent Party, and very few Californians knew how to organize a new party because it's just not done often. You had to go to the county courthouse, give up your right to vote in the primaries, and re-register. Of course, they predicted, the Los Angeles Times and other papers, that it cannot be done. But not only did we get 66,000 to re-register in our party in that state, but after having thrown out some, hundreds and into the thousands, 107,000 Californians re-registered in the American Independent Party by January 2nd of that year. Now you're going to find some people who will say, well, we want to beat the National Democrats. If you vote for Wallace, you're going to take votes away from the National Republicans. Well, out in California, 65% of the 107,000 that re-registered for us were Democrats, and 35% were Republicans. But let me answer it in this way. The national leadership of both parties have both joined in the movement that took away the schools from the people of North Carolina. They joined in the movement that took over the seniority and apprenticeship list of labor unions in this state, the apportionment of your legislature, the takeover of your hospitals, your businesses, and other institutions, and just about all the candidates for the Republican nomination and Democratic nomination joined with other leaders in the Congress and passed a bill that would put you in jail without a trial by jury if you didn't want to sell or lease your home or property to someone that they thought you ought to sell or lease it to. So you can tell your national Republican friends in North Carolina, what difference does it make? There's not 10 cents worth of difference in national Republicans or national Democrats insofar as North Carolina. Not a single one of them are going to say they're going to turn back to you these domestic democratic institutions. So I say that we have everything to gain and nothing to lose. Now, let me say this also. I'm sick and tired of some preachers, and I say some, and some editors, and some judges, and some professors looking down their nose at the people in this state, the textile workers and the aircraft workers and the tobacco workers and the beautician and the barber and the policeman and the fireman and saying you folks don't know where to send your child to school or who ought to teach your child. You don't know. You don't know who you ought to sell your property to. We folks are going to write you a guideline, and we're going to tell you. And so I say that the average North Carolinian doesn't need anybody to tell him when to go to bed at night and get up in the morning, and they go show that on November the 8th. I'm tired of them calling us racist, and I'm tired of them calling us hate mongers and fascists. I have never made a speech or a statement in my life that reflected on any man because of his race, color, creed, religion, or national origin. I'm not going to do so tonight, nor in this campaign for the presidency. And I am proud. And you know the reason they call us racists and fascists and hate mongers? They can't argue down at the University of North Carolina with our position. They can't argue logically with us, so they try to write us off and say we're something bad. I am proud of the fact that when my wife ran for governor of Alabama in 1966, she received in the general election more Negro vote than either one of her two general election opponents. And over in Selma, and in the all-Negro ward in Selma, Alabama, she got 87.5% of the vote in that all. But they used to say, let the people speak. We believe in freedom of choice. Let everybody choose the schools they would like to go to. And we had that system in Alabama. You could choose to go to any school you wanted to go to regardless of your race or color. And the courts upheld it. But in 1966, the Justice Department filed a bill in court in which they said not enough people on this side of Charlotte chose to go to school on this side of Charlotte. And not enough people on this side of El Monte, California, chose to go to school on this side of El Monte. And not enough people on this side of Chicago chose to go to school on this side of Chicago. And we said, but they could have chosen if they had so desired. What are we going to do about it? And they answered us, that is your problem. You work it out. If they don't choose correctly as we see they ought to choose, then we're going to choose for you. So these folks at the University of North Carolina and every other place in this country who talked about let the people speak, they meant let the people speak if you spoke like they wanted you to speak. But if you didn't speak, I could care less what kind of school system you have in North Carolina, because you are intelligent people and can decide the question for yourself. I don't care if you put your children on a bus in Charlotte and send them to Raleigh every day to school and back, if that's what you want to do. But when I get to be the president, I said, but when I get to be the president of the country, I'm going to, within the law, turn back to you people in this state the complete control of the education of your child's heart and mind. There are many issues in this campaign. One, of course, is a matter of breakdown of law and order. And did you know that the leaders of both national parties sound identically alike? Now, some of them may change in the next few months and begin to speak like we do, but it's going to be too late. Bill, I don't think you're going to think they really mean what they say. They had their chance. They had their chance. The President's Crime Commission report says we must pay a ransom to the American, to this group, not to burn our country down. We've got to pay law violators. We've got to raise our taxes and buy a ransom for safety in our country. And then they want to say that all the American people are sick because of the breakdown of law and order, brought about by those in high places who have advocated that you disobey the unjust laws and obey the just. They have kowtowed to every law violated in this country. And I'm not talking about race. The overwhelming majority of the people of all races in this country are against the breakdown of law and order just as much as those who are assembled here tonight. But if you walk out of this building and someone knocks you in the head, the person who knocked you in the head is out of jail before you get to the hospital, and on Monday morning they'll try the policeman about it. Yes. They'll try the policeman on Monday about it. I want to say this. Sometimes I may get frustrated or exasperated about getting a speeding ticket, But I want to say this. If it were not for the policemen and firemen of this country, you couldn't ride in the streets, much less walk in the streets. So I stand with the police of our country. The same people who bring about the breakdown of law and order in this country, that make it safe for political leaders to go about and you to walk in the street, are the same folks who the next week wind up in Hanoi, Peking, Moscow, Havana, and yet they say there's no conspiracy. I tell you who brings about the breakdown of law and order, and very few people, and they are militants, activists, revolutionaries, anarchists, and communists. That's who brings about the breakdown of law and order in this country. And the first thing I'm going to do as a president is to give my moral support to the police and firemen in this country. We don't need a national police force. You've got enough policemen in North Carolina. You've got enough policemen in North Carolina and every other state in the Union. If they'll just let them enforce the law, they can enforce it. They know how. And I tell you, I'll stand with the police. And you got a Supreme Court that says you can't pray in a public school. Oh, that's unconstitutional, they say. I believe in separation of church and state, and the good common sense of the average man in Alabama and California and North Carolina provided at least that you could pray and not violate the Constitution, but now they say it's in violation of the Constitution. But on the other hand, they turn around and say that a communist can work in a defense plant without a security clearance while your child and grandchild is being shot and maimed and killed by the communists in Southeast Asia. And if you'll elect me president, I'm going to, within the law, get every communist out of every defense plan in these United States to get in that field. But there's some things that we should have learned about our involvement in Southeast Asia. We should never have become involved by ourselves, unilaterally, as they say. We should have looked our allies in Western Europe in the face, those that we rehabilitated after the war with our money. We built our textile industry, and we built our steel industries in Japan and in Western Europe. And they use our nuclear shield as their deterrent to communist aggression in those parts of the world. And we should have said to them, it is as much your advantage to defend against communist aggression as it is for us, and you're going to go with us. Yes, we ought to have some eyeball-to-eyeball talk with them, some rapport, as they say, in the sophisticated circles, and some dialogue, as they say. We just ought to have some nose-to-nose talk with them and say, we're not going to carry all of this. We're not going to carry all the load ourselves. And if you don't go with us and you don't help us now, we are not only are going to cut off every dime of foreign aid you're getting, we're going to make you pay back every cent you owe us from World War I right into the fair debt. I'm not against spending money. My administration as governor in my wife's year and 4 months administration spent more money for roads, more money for schools, more money for harbors than at any time in our history. We've got $1 billion road program going on now in our state, and we borrowed some of the money to build the roads and to build 17 junior colleges, 25 trade schools, that today every man, child of any race can get on a school bus and go in the morning to a junior college or a trade school and go home in the afternoon. And as a consequence, we were the #1 state in the Union last year in the percentage of increase in college enrollment because we gave the average man a chance to send his children to a higher institution of learning. And we borrowed some of the money to do it with. But that's an investment that returns to the people of our state. We didn't borrow any money, though, to build any bridges in Yugoslavia. We didn't borrow any money to build any colleges in Ghana. We didn't borrow any money to build any harbors through the United Nations down in Cuba. No, we built them all in Alabama, and there's a great difference. So we're going to see progress continued in our country. There are 500,000 American servicemen totally committed between life and death. And whether you agree with our commitment there, they are there. And as long as they are there, we must do whatever is necessary to protect their interests. And that's what I want to do. There are There are talks going on in Paris at the present time. I pray and hope as you do that they are fruitful and that we can have an honorable peace in Southeast Asia. But it doesn't look like we're going to have that at the moment, because the communists evidently are escalating their build-up in Southeast Asia because they usually do not keep their word. I'm not advocating the rattling of sabers and rockets at the communists, only saying let you know that we understand you, and we're going to talk across the table with you, know that you haven't kept your agreement from your altar on down to the present matter of orbiting nuclear weapons. But we must, of course, stand with our servicemen. And we must, of course, if, in my judgment, the Paris negotiations fail, we should lean heavily upon the Joint Chiefs of Staff, because I believe that with all the diplomatic and political considerations involved, that if they think so, the overriding consideration is military, that we must end the war militarily if it cannot be ended by negotiations fruitfully in Paris. But another thing we ought to do to help end this war is this. We should stop the morale build-up for the communists in our own country. Today we have some professors on college campuses throughout the country who speak and say, as one did in Berkeley, let us organize a freedom brigade and go fight the American imperialist soldiers. They printed that in the communist capital. And it makes the communist soldiers think that half the American people were our own servicemen killed and maimed in Southeast Asia. And when Rutgers made a celebrated speech some time ago in which he said, I long for a communist victory. And they printed that all over the communist world. And when you say, why don't you fire those folks, they say academic freedom. They say free speech. And I say to you that there are many people in this audience tonight who think we ought not to be in Vietnam because you don't think it's good for our country. You've got a right if you think that. And many members of the Congress have got up and spoken and said we shouldn't be there. But if they made a speech the next day saying I long for a communist victory, that goes from honest dissent to an overt act of treason. And if I get to be the president of our country, if I get to be the president of our country, I'm going to ask my Attorney General to seek an indictment against every professor in this country calling for communist victory and see if we can't put them under a good jail somewhere. Now, you know, they say you're running for the presidency. Can you win? It only takes a plurality when three or more are running. If we get 34% of the vote in North Carolina, and the other two parties get 33% apiece, then we win the entire electoral vote of this state. You see? And that's the reason Senator Dirksen up in Illinois the other day said we got to change this electoral system because of that fella down yonder in Alabama. But you're going to be bombarded in the next few weeks and months with this idea about what opportunity and chance, and you may take votes away from somebody. Well, frankly, if some of these parties are so concerned about taking votes away, let one of them withdraw, because maybe they're going to take votes away from us instead of us taking votes away from them. Then I'm going to come back to your state, asking for the support of people regardless of who they happen to be. And our prayer and hope is that God bless all the people of our country. And you and me together will continue to shake the eye teeth of the liberals in both national parties in this country. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.